Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure that you're liking and subscribing to everything. Subscribe to the channel, like videos, like this video. Make sure that you are patronized in the way that you've been patronizing, and we really do appreciate all of the support that we've had. Again, I should be in Indianapolis right now, or excuse me, should be, that's the wrong word. I would have been in Indianapolis right now, but family things came up, and it had me to, make some changes. So shout out to all of my guys that are out in Indianapolis right now or heading to Indianapolis right now. If you have not given a follow to Teron Davenport at T Davenport _NFL, make sure that you do that. If you haven't given a follow to Brandon Howard at B Howard 81, make sure you do so. If you haven't given a follow to Chris James at CJ Florida 9, make sure that you do that. If you haven't given a follow to Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, make sure that you do so at F-Ball Game Plan. Those guys are going to be in Indy. They're going to be holding you down with all types of content, regardless of what you like. They're going to have you. Clearly, there's thousands of other media people who will be out there as well, but those are the guys that I trust. Those are my right hand men in this game. And if you haven't already followed them, make sure that you do that for sure, because it's going to be a great week. It's going to be a great week out in Indy, and some really awesome things going on out there. So please make sure that you follow those guys. There's something that's bothering me, and it's been bothering me for some time. And it's always interesting when you have to address things that you don't agree with, because anytime you dare to go against the mob, there's the opportunity for the mob to turn on you. But in life, we have two options. We can either be afraid of the consequences, afraid of saying what it is we really feel, or we can progress, we can explain, and then we can live in what we believe until somebody offers us other information that says, hey, you need to go and reevaluate what it is you think. So I have Google. Everybody else has Google as well, right? Okay. So I want to do a thing with you. So Art Browse was named the offensive coordinator at Grambling. Now, when he was named the offensive coordinator at Grambling, I was like, that's an interesting hire. Now, peel everything back away from it and just look at it as a football hire. That's a great football hire. A team like Grambling that has athletes, that has prestige, that has the ability with a new head coach who's going to be able to bring in more excitement, to be able to bring in a coach who has designed an offense that Art Browse has designed, bringing that into Grambling would have been great. It would have been great for the kids, well, for the young men, excuse me. It would have been great for the young men. It would have been a difficult thing for other HBCUs in the conference, in the SWAC, to be able to solve. even Jackson State, with all of the guys that they're going to have on that defense, would have had an issue with that offense. From a football standpoint, this makes perfect sense for Hugh Jackson to bring in Art Briles. Now, we don't live in a purely football world. So, Art Briles, and this is where Google comes in at, by the way. Art Briles was the head coach at Baylor when there was the sexual assault scandal that went on. This was a scandal where essentially Art Briles was responsible for a team that had been mixed up in numerous amounts of sexual assaults. It was the results of it were not only just accusations, but convictions of guys with sexual and non-sexual assault cases. So in the grand scheme of things, people held Art Briles responsible because they said that Art Briles knew and did nothing. Completely and totally fair. We're not saying that Art Briles sexually assaulted anybody. What we're saying is he allowed it to go on. He did not protect the young ladies who were attacked by his players. And ultimately, he had to fall on the sword because of it. And I don't disagree with it. I think that was exactly what should have happened. Art Briles failed. Now, it's a difficult job to try to regulate what 100+ men do outside of your purview. But that's the job. That's why you're paid millions of dollars, to ensure that if you do find out that these young men are behaving in a manner that is unbecoming a human being, you do something about it. So you must fall on the sword. I get that. And I 100% believe that Art Briles knew what was going on and did nothing. Matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he knew what was going on and suppressed information. All despicable, all horrible, right? I don't think Art Briles will ever be a head coach again. I don't think he'll ever get another head coaching job. Now, here's the question we have to start asking ourselves. Are we saying that Art Briles should never be a head coach again? Are we saying that Art Briles should never be able to earn a living again? That he should never be able to get beyond the mistakes that he made? They should never be allowed another opportunity to do something in the realm of his expertise that he did because of what we believe he was involved in. Now, if we're saying that, okay. If we're saying that, okay. I don't necessarily agree with it, because I am a believer that people can change, people can learn from their mistakes, the same way that I afford the person who does self-harm the opportunity to learn and grow and be accepted and forgiven, the same way that we say, you know, people can be rehabilitated, that people can become something new, can become something different, can be a force for change. There can be positives that come out of the negative if we're just here, if they just continue to go on and progress. I'm willing to afford everybody the opportunity to get beyond what it is that they did, as long as they've paid their debt. I think it can be argued that Art Browse has paid his debt as far as his situation, his punishment. Fired, ridiculed, drugged through the mud. Him and his family have to go through that. Never going to be a head coach again. So now his livelihood, the thing that he had worked so hard to get to, he's never going to be able to do that again. That's all fair punishment. That's the punishment that was laid down. Okay, boom. Now, should he never be able to be a coach again? Because the difference between a head coach and an assistant coach, I believe by what you guys have done, is that the head coach is responsible for all of the stuff that goes down, but the assistant coaches are not. See, because the assistant coaches in this Baylor situation have been able to essentially get a pass, right? Because we've said that Art Browse should never coach again, because that's what it sounds like. When I hear the people talking, when I read Twitter, it sounds like they're saying Art Browse should never be able to coach again. And again, okay, I'm with you. If that's what you want to do, if that's his punishment, that's his punishment. Why is it his punishment? Because what he did as a head coach means that he can never be an assistant coach. But if that's the case, then what are we doing about the assistant coaches on that staff? I.e., Kendall Brown, who Kendall Brown has been tabbed as one of the bright stars of coaching, as one of the bright stars as an assistant coach. Help me understand this, because Kendall Brown was at Baylor when all of this stuff went on. Kendall Brown is the son of Art Browse, which means it's going to be really hard for me to believe that if Art Browse knew, that Kendall Browse didn't know. Right? If Art Browse knew, then Kendall Browse had to know. That's his father. They have the closest relationship on that team. That's the only reason he has a job as a Division I assistant coach, is because his father is the head coach. Nepotism is alive and well in football coaching. So now the son of the man that you've all said should never coach again. And you said that when you said that he can't be the offensive coordinator for Grambling. That's you saying he should never coach again, just so we're clear. Because we have already agreed can't be a head coach again. Now we're saying can't be an offensive coordinator again? Okay. But if you can't be an assistant coach because you were involved in that scandal, then why is his son one of the highly touted offensive coordinators in college football? Why has Kendall Brown been allowed to get a pass? Why? Because he's an assistant coach? So you're telling me that as an assistant coach, I'm allowed to see everything that's going on and not do anything? You're telling me that as a son, of a father who knows that these women are being attacked and that our players are responsible for it. You're telling me that because I'm an assistant coach and a son of the head coach that I can't do anything about that? You're telling me that the head coach, his career in football, period, end, over. But the son gets to continue to skate and roll and go on from there? Ladies and gentlemen, that makes absolutely no sense. If I 100% believe that Art Briles knew that these young men were doing these horrible acts, if I have reason to believe he suppressed it, then there is no way on God's green earth that I don't believe that his son, who was on that staff, didn't know about it as well, and yet he's been allowed to continue on without penalty. So are you really upset? Do you really care? Or does Art Briles is he just the biggest fish? Do you just get to say you took down somebody that's big? Or do you really care? Do you care about rehabilitation? Do you care about people improving? Do you care about people being able to move forward with their life? Do you think that everybody's entitled to make a mistake and then move forward? Or do you just say that? Is that just something cool to say? Does rehabilitation only apply to certain people, but not everybody? Do certain people get passes and other people not? Right? Because we have different situations. I don't believe Art Briles has ever come out and admitted guilt. I believe he's done that because he probably doesn't feel he's guilty. Now, some would argue, well, man, if he would have just came out and fell on the sword and said what he did and been forgiven for it, then he would have the opportunity to be redeemed, that he could possibly get back something, right? Except in the case of Michael Vick, that didn't happen. Oh, what are you talking about, Gene? Michael Vick had a chance to come back to the NFL. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Vick went to jail. He did real legitimate time in jail. He lost the prime years of his athletic career. Came back and performed as a better quarterback, but he still lost those prime years. He's never getting those prime years back. Now, when he went to jail for dogfighting, he got more time than some people get for killing people. He got more time than people get when they sell drugs that kill people. Some people, not all, but this is the inequality of our justice system, right? When he came back, he was vilified. Told he could never own pets again. Every person who has a dog who is in that world hates his guts, thinks he's the most despicable human being ever. Michael Vick admitted, paid his price, became an advocate for, stands in it, doesn't run from it, understands that people hate him, understands that people are going to hate him forever. He continues on. He talks to everybody. He's willing to sit down and listen to people and their stories. He apologizes, he apologizes, he apologizes, and you people still hate his guts. Every time he gets an opportunity for something, you still go out there and pick it. Every time he does anything, you still talk about him being a disgrace. You still talk about him being awful. So if he has done everything that you're supposed to do, when you do something wrong, if he's done everything that society says you're supposed to do, when you do something wrong, if he was not skated, if he did not skate on anything, if he did not get the star treatment with something, if he landed in it, if he sits in it, and you still hate his guts, then do we really care about rehabilitation? Do we really care about giving a person the opportunity to move forward? Do we really care to see if people advance? Do we really care to see if people make changes in their lives? Do we really care? I don't know. It doesn't seem like we do, though. Because every time somebody does something, it is a cancel for life. And if for some reason they get an opportunity at redemption, we go, he doesn't deserve it. Or, no, let's continue to bring up all the awful things or the one awful thing in these cases. As far as I know, Art Browse hasn't been in any other trouble. I'm not a lawyer, and I don't pretend to be one. So I don't know if he should have went to jail for what happened. But I do know that every penalty that he should have been levied, that should have been levied against him, was levied. He no longer is the head coach at Baylor, the program that he built from nothing. He has to watch other people use his building blocks and then use that school as a stepping stone to other even better opportunities. He has to live in that forever. He is never going to be revered again. There's a bit on the Dan Levitar Show with Stu Gatz. With Stu Gatz, anytime he talks about hell, he says Art Browse. This man is going to live in infamy forever. He has to sit in that. And it's okay if you tell me that, no, Gene, he's done. He never can come back. It's over for him. Okay, I'm willing to listen. I get it. If that's what has to happen, that's what has to happen. If that's the penalty, that's the penalty. If we're saying that he can't be the head coach, he can't be an assistant coach, he can't work in coaching at all. Okay. Tell me why his son's working. Tell me why any of the coaches in that program at that time have a job. All of those coaches, if that's the case, if what you're saying is true, all of those coaches should be out of jobs. If you've been inside of a football program, you know that there is not much that the head coach knows that the assistant coaches don't know. Most of the time, the assistant coaches get put up on game before the head coach does. So if there were players, when there were players out there committing these horrible acts, it would have gotten to the GAs first. Why? Because they're the closest to the co-ed experience. Most likely, some of them probably played on the team or have friends who are still active on the team. Somebody would have gotten word to someone, hey, look, man, I heard such and such happen. The girl is talking about going down to campus security. Somebody would have heard something. That would have triggered that assistant coach, if they're good at their job, to go and tell somebody else, to run it up the chain. The assistant coach tells the coordinator, who tells the head coach, or the assistant coach tells the head coach. From there, it's the head coach now, again, not being completely privy to all the inner workings of how this went down. Did all of these assistant coaches roll over on Art Browse, including his son, Kendall Brown? I don't think they did. So if we're saying that Art Browse is done, and again, I'm okay if that's the case, if that has to be what happens, because what he allowed to happen was so bad, what he possibly suppressed getting out was so bad that that's his penance, that's his punishment. Okay. Are we really going to sit here and watch the ascension of Kendall Browse? Or are we saying, no, Kendall Browse can be an assistant coach. He can be a coordinator at an SEC, ACC, Big Ten level where he could possibly achieve over $1 million a year as an assistant, but he can never be a head coach. Is that what we're saying? Are we going to wait until he gets talked about being a head coach or becomes a head coach to then drop a bomb on him so that they can hire him and fire him? Because Art Browse got hired by a program that all of you say don't matter. By a program that so many of you say in the grand national scheme of things don't matter. Oh, Grambling, who cares about Grambling? They're not even making the FCS playoffs, let alone the college football playoff. So why should we care? Until they hire Art Browse. And then you care enough where you go on a campaign to get him up out of there. Now, if black people wanted to be upset that Hugh Jackson went to an HBCU and gave a top-level job like offensive coordinator to a white man, I can understand that argument. Why? Because how do we ever keep advancing our black coaches if you give the white guy the offensive coordinator job, which we know is a stepping stone, a direct stepping stone to a head coaching position? How do we get the pipeline working if you're filling the pipeline with guys who don't fit the bill? Like, if you wanted to be mad and outraged about that, that makes sense to me. And if you're saying that he can't coach at all, okay. Then why is anyone on that staff coaching? And why is his son one of the most talked about offensive coordinators, and not for a bad reason, in the game? Because clearly he knew. What are we doing? Clearly he knew, right? Do we care? Or do we just want it to seem as if we care? Do we really want to fight for, those young ladies who were victimized? Do we really want to see them? Like, what do they get out of this? What do they get out of you making sure that Art Browse no longer gets a job, but not saying anything to Kendall Browse? What do those victims get out of it? Peace of mind? You think they're at peace because Art Browse who I'm sure probably took care of his money and was making millions of dollars at Baylor, you think they're at peace because Art Briles doesn't get to coach at Grambling, a school that many of them probably didn't even know exists? We know the student body population of Baylor. So you think that they're somehow happier at a school that they didn't know exists, that a school they didn't know exists ended up not bringing in Art Briles as the offensive coordinator? Or does it make you feel better? Do you feel accomplished? Are you waiting for Kendall Brown to get a head coaching job or to get head coaching consideration so that you can then try to dismiss him as well? Is that the game we're playing? Because I'm not here for that game. I'm not here for the perception of outrage. I'm not here for the perception of caring. I'm here to care. I'm here to be legitimately outraged. When all of that stuff came out about Art Briles, I said, that dude's got to get fired. I didn't say, well, no, he's got to get fired. You know what else I didn't say? He can never work again. I didn't say that. You know why? Because I understand that I am human and I make mistakes. And I want to have an opportunity to be able to make amends for a mistake, to show that I've changed for a mistake, and to then be afforded the opportunity to work in the place where I made the mistake to show that I'm better. And guess what? Everybody should have that opportunity. But I also know that there are certain things that once they happen, can't happen anymore. You can't be able to do it anymore. Right? There are certain things, the consequences of that action means you can no longer do this. Sorry. That's how it works. That's why I'm okay if you tell me that this guy should never coach again at any level, at any position. Because there's certain things that maybe you just can't come back from, or you shouldn't. I'm okay with that. But I need it to be real, and I need it to be legitimate about how you feel about this. Because when you fill up my timelines with this is awful, this should never happen, why? I see so many people talking about this Ukraine and Russia situation. And they're all like prayers of Ukraine. And then I see video of people treating Black people awful in the Ukraine. And it breaks my heart that even in this world where those people are being attacked, there's still a separation. But I haven't seen a whole lot of people go, man, it's really awful how those Black people are being treated in the Ukraine. I've only seen some Black people say it. Now, it could be that you're staying out of politics altogether and cool. But I'm talking about the names that I see making references and talking about the situation in the Ukraine. We can admit both things are horrible. We don't have to just say one thing's horrible. We can talk about both things being horrible. Black people not being allowed on the train. Black people being sent back off the borders so that they can't get to shelter. Black babies being left to fend for themselves. Are we really outraged, or we just kind of sort of want to say some stuff because we want the world to think we are outraged? I don't come on here and pretend to be outraged about stuff that I'm not outraged about. Never have, never will. We got to check ourselves, people. What do we really want? What are we really trying to accomplish? What do we hope our actions will bring? What type of change do we hope our actions will bring about? If we can't answer those questions, then maybe it's time for us to shut up. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. We do this thing a few times a week. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, you know what to do. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Also, keep me and my family in your prayers. I will keep you and your family in mind. Until next time, peace.